record. Okay, so just so you guys know who I am, my name's Charles, and I work for the Komodo Platform. I've been with them since 2016, and my role in the platform now is mainly doing business development. So I'm the person in charge of like onboarding projects, analyzing like partnership opportunities and things like this. But I've worked on like the deeper tech side, so I know a lot of the technology, how it works. So yeah, if you guys want to do like a small intro, and then I'll just go ahead with the little presentation I had.
Yeah, happy to. So yeah, I'm James Amon, the CTO with Topl, and yeah, I guess my training is more formally in like physics. So a lot of the computer science stuff I'm really coming to as a newbie. So I'm really excited to kind of get to learn from some of the best here, honestly.
Awesome.
Cool. Okay.
I'm Ren from Nervos. I'm in charge of the Nervos research team. And I have a background in computer science, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert in everything, so I invited another expert, our leader who is in charge of interoperability, Wenchao, to join us in this meeting.
Yeah, I'm Wenchao. You can call me Wen for short. It's hard to pronounce for you guys. Yeah, I'm the architect of Force Bridge, the bridge on Nervos chain. So yeah, I'm here to learn from you guys how interoperative works in ADA or other UTXO Alliance. Awesome.
Yeah, I think we're all here because, you know, of the initiative from Cardano and IOHK.
IOHK.
IOHK, yeah.
Yeah, they may be offended.
Yeah, they probably will be. So yeah, so basically, like in preparation and everything with their smart contracts, they're looking to make things interoperable. So actually, we have someone else joining. I'll just let them in. And the idea, I guess, for the interoperability group is just to kind of like understand like where we stand in each project's technology and seeing how we can leverage it. I know, for example, that some projects already have things built in for making, you know, either different types of blockchains interoperable, to do cross-chain swaps, things like that. So what I'm going to go over today is just a little bit of the history on the Komodo platform and like what we have done. And I think these are the most interesting things for us. So back in 2016, Komodo was the first project that implemented the Thier-Nolan atomic swap, which is basically a hash lock time contract implementation between two Bitcoin compatibles. So once we had that done, we started working on making Ethereum and ERC chains, basically to be able to do atomic swaps between ERC tokens, Ethereum based tokens, and Bitcoin tokens. And we did that in around 2017. And back then, when we were doing these cross-chain swaps, you had to download the full blockchain. So like you had to have a full node. So it's very, very hard. Everything was on the command line. And so we started working on the graphical interface, and then we started working on the SPV swaps, the light wallet basically. And we implemented the first SPV atomic swap. But by then we already had a whole bunch of coins like Litecoin, Dogecoin, all of the UTXO chains, and the ERC compatibles. And then in the more recent times, as like other ecosystems evolved, like the Binance chain, Polygon, Matic, we started implementing those, and we've been doing that for the past year and a half. So we were the first also to do BSC swaps, Binance chain swaps with Bitcoin compatibles, and also with ERC. So we have basically built an engine for like cross-chain swaps between different ecosystems. And I think I was explaining to Ren right now, the main implementation or the main use for this right now is for DEXs, trading and bridges. But we want to see how we can leverage this further, possibly for data transfer or some other type of communication between chains. And I'll explain a little bit of what the AtomicDEX is. And so you have the AtomicDEX core, which is basically the protocol that lets you interact between the different ecosystems. And as it is right now, the protocol is compatible with 99% of blockchains. And we say 99 because there's always, some weird blockchain out there that we might not be able to implement. But if we were given enough resources, we could definitely find implementations. We have a harder time with non-UTXO chains, but if there is a way to create something similar to a hash lock time contract, then we most likely can implement it. So you have the core, and the core is basically, it has an API, so you can, basically like integrate your own solutions to it and build out your own apps. And then we have the GUI, the AtomicDEX apps for desktop, mobile, and those are open source as well. So basically like a project can come, they can use that graphical interface and build out, we call them branded DEXs, because that's what other projects have built on them. We have a few of them out now, and they use the same network, but they basically brand them to the project, add their own coins, and use them as their own. And then I think I mentioned the API for like third-party wallets and things like this. So there's a few ways that you can build on it. And how can we use the DEX? So just a few examples. Let's say you have a coin that's on Polygon, and then you have the same token on the same project on Ethereum, and you have another token on Binance chain. You could actually build bridges between these. And the way the AtomicDEX works, you have peer-to-peer trading, peer-to-peer order matching, and peer-to-peer liquidity. So the project can actually set their own liquidity providers up for the community, and you can bridge these tokens between each other. And besides one-to-one swaps, so like if you have a token on different chains and you just want to swap them one-to-one, you can actually trade them basically with all other coins that are compatible on the AtomicDEX core. So you can actually trade those coins as well with Bitcoin, Litecoin, ERC, any other coin. And yeah, the idea like that we had back in 2016 was to bridge blockchains, and that's what we've been working on. So that's what the AtomicDEX protocol is. Some of the benefits of the liquidity providing on the AtomicDEX, besides, comparing it to like a Uniswap style, is that there's no impermanent loss. It's order book trading, so it's built different, and it's taken us a little bit of time to build the liquidity tools. And we're actually now releasing the liquidity management tool that Firo and a few other projects are using to like put up liquidity on the DEX and basically do like their one-to-one swaps. And we are working on the web app. So basically you'd be able to run the AtomicDEX, we call it the market maker, which is the one that fulfills the swaps on a browser. Right now it's all on desktop and mobile. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have any questions up to this point. Now that's basically like the gist of what the AtomicDEX is.
So I'm kind of curious. Well, I got a couple of questions, I guess.
Sure.
So you'll have to forgive me. I feel like, isn't there like some counterparty issue with HTLCs, where like you can, if like Bob doesn't do something or something, like I just forget the setup because I haven't like looked at him in a while, but if I recall, it's like Alice can do something and Bob can respond, and then it's like Bob can essentially cause Alice to lose the ability to access her tokens until the time lock runs out. I forget if anyone can remind me what the,
Yeah.
or maybe I'm just like misremembering it overall.
I can send you the documentation of how and I'll paste this in the Slack. So you basically can go over the like how the atomic swap works. The way that we have built the swap, there's steps, and within those steps, there's a certain information that gets shared in each step. And basically, if one step isn't fulfilled, then the swap reverses itself and nobody loses funds.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I'll send that over to you. It probably will be a lot more helpful than I'll be able to explain it. And yeah, and you know, if you have any other questions in regards to that, our CTO is also on the Slack, so you can basically ask him more like technical questions. But yeah, the way that it works, and we haven't had any issues in the years that we've launched of people, let's say like losing funds because the swap didn't fulfill. Usually, if I'm not mistaken, it takes, so let's say a swap dies in the middle of the transaction, right? Like somebody loses connection or something like this. The swap will reverse itself in a few hours. And then basically funds go back to each party.
Yeah,
except for the DEX fee.
It's a griefing thing. It's just the funds stay locked up and nothing happens. There's no risk of the funds being lost. It's just that they're locked, and the person on the other side of the swap has a free option to take those funds or to not.
How do you mean?
Right.
Like with the HTLC, say like I lock up funds and you know are there as the counterparty in the transaction, and you know you will take those funds or you will not, and you have a period of time to do that. So you know I lock up the funds, and then you basically have a free option of do you still want to complete that deal or do you not, and you can wait until the timeout expires, and you have that the whole time. But from my end, the funds are locked up.
Right. Yeah. There are things that we have implemented to sort of like dissuade those types of actions, and obviously it does happen if somebody loses connection. That's basically like the main cause of swaps either not fulfilling or having to be reversed. But we have thought also of adding like different mechanisms, possibly different like fee structures to sort of like either punish bad actors that do this on purpose to, you know, to mess with the network. But until now, we haven't had any major issues with it. I think obviously as volume grows and there's more transactions, more parties, then different things would have to be implemented to sort of either prevent that, dissuade it, punish it on the network. But yeah, again, you know, I'll send you guys the documentation, and then if you guys have like technical questions or any suggestions, feel free to put them on the Slack, and then our CTO basically is there, and he's like the master of the AtomicDEX core. But so with the HTLC, so you guys have you steered away from it because of this, or is that an issue for you? I guess I didn't grasp that.
No, it was much more. I'm sorry, my bad, Rin. I mean, I'm really interested in HTLCs in general. It was just more I knew that there was like some this griefing. That's exactly what it was. I remember now that in the discussion of it. I mean, to be completely honest, we're kind of on our. We don't really have an interoperability solution currently in place at Topl. We're kind of exploring things, and so. You know, knowing the sorts of what we need to put in place. I mean, seeing that you guys have built what you guys have built is really awesome, and like and being able to learn from that and see that maybe it's not that big an issue. I think a lot of times, well, I don't know, maybe that's not the case, but yeah, it's not necessarily dissuading from it. It's just kind of I like knowing the limitations of what I'm getting into. Yeah,
for sure. No, I get it. Yeah, I mean, with cross-chain swaps, there's definitely there's limitations to the technology, and I think like once you look at how the swaps work, some of the downsides to it, you know, as opposed to like an Ethereum based or a contract based swap, which usually they happen within a block. With cross-chain, you're talking multiple transactions across different block times. So they're usually slower transactions. And as you said, you know, there's issues within each network. So it's definitely more, I don't want to say complex, but it is cumbersome. Like it's less complex, I would say, or at least I believe it's more secure than contract-based swaps, because there's, I guess, less moving parts. I don't know if that's the right way of saying it. But yeah, so again, you know, I think it would be cool for you guys to take a look at what we've built and see if this is something you can either use, implement on your own, and seeing how we can improve it. That's, I think at the end of the day, that's probably what we want as well. We want to improve it, make it better.
I got a question.
Yeah.
You just mentioned that you ran into some problems when deal with non-UTXO contracts like Ethereum. So in the end, how did you solve this problem? Like, did you just simulate the HTLC on Ethereum contracts in Solidity, or
Yeah,
how did you do that?
for Ethereum in particular, we had to build a special contract. We call it Atomic, and we deployed that contract on the Ethereum side, and it basically it acts as like the HTLC on the Ethereum chain, and it fulfills the swap. It took us some time to build it, and we deployed it a few years ago. And it's basically like the template that we use for Binance, basically any EVM. It actually uses the same contract. Recently, we have had to build a different one we got a grant to implement Bitcoin Cash's SLP tokens. It's like a contract on Bitcoin Cash. And that we had to build something totally different. But yeah, for the EVMs, and I'll send you the contract. It's called Atomic. It's on GitHub, and you can see what it actually looks like and how it does fulfill the swaps.
So does that mean that you guys have to? Yeah, I'm curious. Like, does that mean you have to top up your Atomic contract to pay the fees to issue?
Yeah, it depends on the. So basically, like if you want to swap, let's say Bitcoin to Ethereum, one party would have to pay those Ethereum fees for the transaction. It depends on which side you're on.
So if I'm the Ethereum user, it's when I go to like withdraw from the contract, that's when I have to pay the fee to it?
Yeah, well, that's the thing with Ethereum and the EVM. Well, actually, with the atomic swaps in particular, there's I think around 4 transactions that take place. So depending on which side you're on, you're going to be paying those transaction fees. With Ethereum, obviously, right now it's super expensive to do. Not a lot of people are using it to swap Ethereum. They're mostly using Binance chain, Polygon. But yeah, so basically one side pays, like if you're on the Bitcoin side, you're going to pay the Bitcoin fee. And then if you're on the Ethereum side, you're going to pay the Ethereum fee, or the ERC side.
So it cannot be like the AMM style, right? There have to be like makers and takers to do the trade, right?
Yeah, it's like order book style. It's not
Okay.
not like AMM, no. Totally different.
Yeah.
I'm not like fully like familiar with how, I think Thorchain has something like an AMM. I don't know if they do full cross chain. But somebody mentioned it to me recently. I'll have to look into it more. But I don't know of any other protocol really that has implemented like true native cross-chain swaps with the AMM. I don't know if, I mean, if it can be done, that would be, I think to me, they're just so simple to use. And the beauty with the AMMs is the liquidity is so easy to plug in.
Yeah.
What we did do for the AtomicDEX, we built something called simple swap, and it's just like Uniswap. Before we used to have, you had the trading view, the chart, order books, and it was very complex. So now the user basically just picks, let's say Komodo to Litecoin, the amount, swap, and then the market maker will pick the best order and match it. So it's a lot simpler, but it doesn't. It's you have like you said, you have makers and takers on each side.
Mm-hmm. I'm also curious about the use cases of the atomic swap style cross-chain. Let's say if there is a Bitcoin user, he cannot use this. He can just like swap Bitcoin for other assets on other chains with this DEX, right? He cannot like benefit from the architectures like Uniswap or other DeFi contracts on Ethereum, right?
Not yet. We have done a little bit of work in implementing, like, so for example, let's say you have Bitcoin native and you want it in WBTC. So you could do the one-to-one swap on the DEX. And we have worked, or we haven't implemented it, but it is ongoing work to add other, like, so like once you're on the WBTC side, you could actually interact with the Uniswap AMM or with another DeFi protocol. So that can be built on it. But right now, what you can do in the app is basically move from native Bitcoin to WBTC or BTC on the Binance chain or on Polygon or whichever other chain we support.
Do you got any ideas on this to do like use this atomic swap style to do things like that? Because most of the cross-chain protocols right now, they just use lock and mint model, as I know, that they lock some assets in one blockchain and mint the mirror token on the other chain and use the mirror token as the original one in the other chain. So it's like the mechanism is very different from this atomic swap style. Is there any way to use that atomic swap style to do like interoperabilities between chains? Have you got any ideas about this?
Oh, you mean? Well, how do you mean? I guess I got lost. I like the way that you can use the DEX right now. The core is to move from one ecosystem to the other, but without having to lock the coins, right? So what you're asking is if we could do that, but locking them, or how do you mean?
Yeah, I mean, use this style not just like trade assets, like to swap assets in another blockchain, but to like use one asset in one chain, use this atomic swap style to interact with like other protocols or contracts in another blockchain. Because right now, other like the cross-chain bridges, they just like the way you said, they lock Bitcoin and they mint WBTC and use WBTC to do anything else. Is there possible to like do this in a atomic swap way?
I think we haven't gotten that far yet. I think I get what you're saying. So basically, like if I have the native Bitcoin, I could interact with like a Ethereum contract, but I don't necessarily have to get on the Ethereum side fully, like use the peer-to-peer protocol to interact with it somehow.
Yeah.
We haven't gotten that far yet. I don't see why it's not possible. It's a matter, I think, of having enough liquidity on the DEX to actually be able to pull something like that off without having to like lose that much in the process. And then the other thing is the transaction fees. Like because of the atomic swap, the way that it works, you're actually every step is a transaction. So on chains like Ethereum, Bitcoin, not so much now with the back addresses, but with Ethereum, it's crazy. It's like $100 for a transaction. But yeah, I think, it would be interesting if you guys look at it, and definitely if there's a way to either expand it, do other things with it, I think that would be amazing. And from us, from the Komodo side, we're willing to put resources towards that, to expand it, make it better, make it more secure. And I think for me, in my opinion, one of the reasons why the AtomicDEX hasn't been used that much right now is because putting liquidity on it has been hard. I mean, like myself, I've been working on it for years, and managing liquidity was hard until I think around 6 months ago. We started working on like an easy to use liquidity tool. We're onboarding like it's institutional liquidity providers, and they're going to be using these tools to basically market make. Once that's ready, I think there's going to be a lot more use of the DEX and more eyes on it to see, what other things we can build on it. But it's definitely something we can expand.
Cool.
Yeah. So for me, that was my small presentation on what the DEX is. And again, I think the whole gist of it is basically to kind of like let you guys know what we've built, for each team in the UTXO Alliance to look at it, see if it can be used somehow on your project. If it's something that you guys like and it needs to be expanded, let's work towards that. And for us, we also want to see, what each project has built and see how we can implement that into the core of our platform, or seeing how we can bridge these chains.
So from a, I guess, are all, so you mentioned the SPV client, right? To actually facilitate the swaps. So like what, do all the chains you support are like they natively, can you do the SPV client? Or is it like do you need to have some, okay, so if that's the case, then I guess what, is it just looking for a certain type, what are the requirements, I guess, in order to, that's what I'm getting at, is in order to integrate with it and to be like compatible with this SPV proof mechanism, like what would be needed? Like, is there something at the consensus level, or in lock headers?
We don't use SPV for all chains because some chains don't have it implemented, but they do have some type of light wallet protocol. So if the chain isn't SPV compatible, because that's more of like a Bitcoin compatible type deal, we just try to interact with their light chains, their light wallet infrastructure. Most chains do have that now. I think with them, we were looking at that, they had like a whole different system. They call it NIS, and basically you just connect a light wallet to one of their nodes, and you're able to work through that. The most important thing is being able to fulfill the lock time contract on each chain. And with non-UTXO chains, like smart contracts chains, we would need to make sure that the language has specific functions in it to basically do that. I can actually send you that. I have that on another document of like things that we ask for whenever an external chain is trying to get implemented.
Interesting.
Yeah, and we were looking at implementing Nervos a while back. We had applied for a grant, and we saw that it was compatible, but it was going to take basically like resources and time. With Topl, we haven't looked at it, but I'll have our team basically take a look and see, if it is compatible and what needs to be done. With Cardano, I know the UTXO side is compatible. The smart contracts, we don't know yet. We'll have to see what needs to be done on that. But yeah, I think, I know you guys are more tech oriented, so having a look through the documentation will probably help you out a lot more. And I'm sure you have tons of questions for us once you get that stuff read.
Yeah, I'm pretty interested. I mean, the overall, I think I'm really looking at, I'm built off like the ScoreX framework, which is the same thing that just kind of the underpinnings of Ergo platform.
Okay.
So I'm really in the next couple weeks, I'm really going to start this thing of trying to integrate Ergo script into our to really expand our UTXO, like our transaction functionality. Because right now we're very kind of hard coded in terms of what we can support at the transaction level. Our propositions and proof system is our like attestation mechanism is quite rigid. It doesn't allow. We don't really have any idea of like opcodes or anything like this to allow like more expressiveness in how you actually satisfy propositions to move funds. But I think Ergo script is it's an already made solution that has a good community already. I mean, they can demonstrate buybacks and more complex proposition creation. So then the question comes, if I have that ability to just kind of out of the box get hash time lock contracts and more expressiveness in my proposition piece, then at the consensus level, what do I need to be able to integrate with the cross-chain functionality? So that's kind of the biggest question for me.
Yeah, I know just from the high view, we would need to deploy, let's say, a version of the Atomic contract on your side, and once that's done, that's basically it. It's compatible. So like,
why Atomic?
Well, the Atomic is what
that's like.
Wait, I guess.
That would be like an account-based system, right?
Yeah, maybe I misunderstood.
We're UTXO based, right? So everything would be the Ergo script. I mean, so in reality, that's the smart contract system on Cardano is the same way, right? Everything's just all of the expressiveness of their like smart contracts is really in this extended UTXO model. They just have like more complex ways to build like scripts that sit on the front of UTXOs. And then their contracts are really just like stringing UTXOs together into like multi-stage contract or like multi-block, executions to like mimic the logic of, at least as far as I understand it, and unless someone from Cardano wants to come and correct me. It's basically the exact same thing that Ergo has already been doing for about a year or a year and a half now, as I think. And yeah, it's just they have some way to build these zero knowledge proofs, and Ergo script is just this. It's based off. I don't know. Alex would be the one to know everything about it, but I'm kind of like beginning my journey into learning it. But it's all like it's a Sigma protocol or Sigma language, something like that. It's some specific zero knowledge structure that is all signature based, and but it lets you build somewhat more expressive propositions or scripts that you can tie onto it. So I mean, the hash time locks, definitely something they support.
I can send you an example.
Compound stuff. Yeah.
I can send you an example integration on GitHub of a UTXO chain, so you can just go over what basically we do on the other chain side in order to make it compatible. And either way, I'll ask our CTO as well the question, so maybe he can give me more detailed answers. But usually with the reference Git pool, you'll be able to see more or less like what needs to be done.
Yeah, I definitely think the transaction part's not what I think makes you nervous. It's more the consensus part now. It's like how do you identify that a transaction is in a certain block that you need to go look at? I mean, we have Bloom filters and that sort of stuff, and I'm sure like we would have it, but just making sure that maybe you have to run a full client, but I'm kind of curious. I mean, SPVs are a much more accessible way for people to
to basically interact with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We'll figure it out. Let us look into it, and I'll let you know. I know that we have partnered with Ergos directly. I actually don't know much about it, and I do know we're working on integration. So I know that our dev team definitely will know a lot more about it, and I can get back to you with that.
Nice.
Awesome. This meeting is running out in 2 minutes. I don't know if we want.
Side note.
Yeah.
Please also send your technical documents to the Google group.
Yeah, I will. I will.
But,
I'll send all the AtomicDEX documentation, and I'll send some of the GitHub references so you guys can go through that. And yeah,
Right,
I think you know, if we can have these meetings weekly, then I will add more of the other projects that didn't join today, and try to see, you know, how we can work together. You know, I think it's important just to look at like what the UTXO Alliance, what are the goals, and start small, and try basically just to, like, once we understand like what we all have, and just try to set those goals for future. So yeah, cool. I'll send all that stuff to the channel, and feel free to ping me if you have any questions.
Yeah, thanks for taking the charge on this, Charles, and
No
setting
worries.
everything up.
Yeah, thank you guys for joining. So I guess have a great day.
you
Nice to
too.
see you guys.
All right, ciao.
Have a good day, everyone.